Awesome. I think we'll kick it off. So yeah, I'm ready to introduce myself. On the call with me today, we have James from LastPass. He's the regional sales manager for MSP. Is that correct, James? Have I got that right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah. We'll go with that.
uh, a regional partner sales manager. Um, Second, uh, just had a comment on the chat saying I'm on mute. Uh,
I can hear you.
yeah. Sorry, guys, just some technical difficulties. Give me a second. How about now, James? You still hear me?
Yep, can
Could
hear
someone put in the chat if they can hear me? Yeah, Richard Smith,
you.
thank you. I got a thumbs up. We can hear everyone. Sorry about that, guys. So I think I'll pretty much start again with the introduction. Yeah, my name is Parry with Bluechip, and I'm the product manager for LastPass. On the call with me, I have James, who's the regional partner sales manager um, with LastPass, and we have Anthony, who's the international sales manager for the APAC region. So yeah, I'll pass it over to you guys to tell us a bit more about what you do at LastPass before we kick off with the.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks, Barry. So, um, as Barry mentioned, my name's James. I'm the MSP partner manager here in the APAC region. I report to Anthony Rosa, who's kind of the program manager and has launched the MSP program. I think close to 3 years now, Anthony.
That's right. It's been 3 years and counting. It's been very, very quick already. So
Awesome. So, Barry,
Awesome.
you happy for us to just get right into it?
Yeah, definitely. I think yeah, we've got quite a few people on now, so everyone should be ready to go. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So, um, before I get into the timeline, I just want to kind of set the agenda for today's session and what we're hoping that everyone that's joined this call goes away with is find out a little bit more about LastPass, how to actually position password management as a whole, like stepping away from LastPass, how to position password management to your customers, use the information that we provide you today to go out and speak to your customers about. And then on the back end of that, we'll talk more specifically about LastPass, and then there'll be some Q&A at the end as well to kind of answer your questions. But let's get right into it. So I just wanted to share the LastPass timeline with you. So we were founded in 2008. We are, I believe, one of the oldest password management tools out there. In 2015, we were acquired by a company called LogMeIn or GoTo. We're using GoToMeeting now. And the APAC MSP program launched in 2020, right? And in 2023, so as of the 1st of January, we actually split from GoTo, right? And we completely shifted away from them. Everything from our infrastructure, our CEO, all of our staff have completely split from GoTo. And now we are 100% independent private company as of the 1st of January last year. Awesome. So just a quick company overview. Our headquarters is in Boston, in the States. We have 1,000 plus employees across the world now. I think that we've reached above that mark recently, and 33 million users globally, and 100,000 business users as well. So with the MSP program, we've only launched it in the past 3 years, but our product has been around for a very long time and has that global standing. So we're looking at password management and what has really driven the growth of password management in New Zealand. So this is coming from a number of things. So we have conversations with MSPs every day, especially in the New Zealand side of things, and what MSP partners are seeing today. So CERT NZ has the top 10 critical controls, and I believe most of you would be familiar with that. If you're not, just give it a quick Google, CERT-NZ. And they have the top 10 critical controls. And they have a recommendation to provide and use a password manager, right? In comparison to Australia, we have a framework called the Essential 8, which a lot of our MSPs tie their security frameworks towards. So we're missing two controls that you guys have, and one of them is the use of a password manager. And Anthony and I talk about this regularly. We do see that recommendation coming sooner rather than later in Australia. But you guys are kind of ahead of the curve there with that recommendation for small to medium businesses to have that included. Cyber insurance is something that pops up in our conversations a lot more now. You know, a lot of businesses, a lot of end users are looking towards cyber insurance. And if they don't have a tool like password management in place, they're actually getting denied cyber insurance until they have something in place. But sometimes they're even paying higher premiums, right, if they don't have something in place. So it's actually a question that's asked by the insurance companies as a tick box, like, how are you managing your credentials at the moment? Are you using a password manager, right? And then end user awareness around compromised credentials has just taken off over the past 6 to 12 months. A lot of government recommendation, again, the CERT-NZ. Here in Australia, we actually see a lot of commercials. So end users are just more aware around the issue around their credentials and their importance on why they need to have something in place to kind of safeguard that. Awesome. So I'll pass the next slide over to Anthony.
That's right, James. Thanks for sharing that, mate. And just wanna make sure we go through that really again. It's like password harvesting right now is the number one reason why people get breached in the world, right? And honestly, here you can see the breakdown incident by category in CERT New Zealand, and you're gonna be able to see that, right? It's great to know that in New Zealand, the government obviously and you guys are ahead of the curve, like James said, with having including password management on your critical control. So that's something that we definitely need to keep in mind. But at the same time, it's something that we need to actually use, right? So I encourage everybody that is out there that is actually seeing this and just go to CERT New Zealand, check the quarterly report yourself. I will highly encourage you to share this with your customers because it's not the same thing when you go there and maybe they say, oh, well, you're trying to sell me another product, another application, or anything like that. This is real. It's a real issue, and you should be leading with this. This is just education to your customers, and it's very important. So I just want to make sure I mention that. James, you want to jump to the other slide? Excuse me, I'm a bit sick. This one is just really quick, just to show you. In Australia, we have exactly the same thing, right? We have phishing. This is from the Notifiable Data Breach Report produced by the Australian government. Phishing is number one. Compromised credential number two with 27%, and brute force attack is on the bottom there with 3. So 58% of the data breaches in Australia are due to compromised credentials. The reason why we added this slide is because I know we have a lot of partners in New Zealand that have either branches in Australia or B, they have customers in Australia. So it's important to mention this as well. If you want this data, please let us know. We're more than happy to send you the link for the notifiable data breach report as well. Okay.
Awesome.
James, you can go on from here. So obviously, LastPass password management tool, right? A lot of the question that we ask is like, okay, what problem do you resolve for end users, right? So at that point, you as an MSP can go out there and actually sell it. So obviously, password fatigue. We all know that customers have like a million passwords. So we have it as well, right? So every person in average have around 80 passwords, right? 50 to 80 password, and it could get very complex. Here, you only have to remember the master password. Secondly, weak passwords, right? Yeah, again, we all have 50 password to 80 password, but a lot of people, and that's the reason why the cyber incident continue to come down with phishing and credential harvesting, is the fact that a lot of people use password or weak password, like their cat's name, 123 at the end, right? Which is a problem. That's very easy to actually hack, right? We actually had an event. I went to an event with Jane, just to mention a quick story here. I said that comment about the cat's name and 123, and one person started laughing out loud. Um, and yeah, he was obviously embarrassed because it was pretty obvious that I pretty much mentioned his password, what I was mentioning, right? So password sharing, this is a key point. Why? Because reality is we're selling and we're dealing with companies, right? Organization that may have 5, 10, 20, 50 employees, maybe 200, who knows, depending the MSP, right? And a lot of these companies are sharing either their bank details, they're sharing, let's say for marketing, their LinkedIn password or their Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is, right? So, and right now, when you talk to them, they're sharing their password via an Excel sheet or via email or sending each other team messages or in written, right? That's not safe. That is plain text. If they get hacked in one website, especially if they're using a weak password, that means that they're gonna get hacked in absolutely everything else. So sharing password is something, a capability that we do have in LastPass. That I can actually share my password, let's say my LinkedIn password with James. I can even block that password from being seen. So through LastPass, James can launch LinkedIn, but he's not able to see my password, right? So we have capabilities like that to actually share. And not only that, if James ever leave the organization, I'm able to remove James from that sharing center and pretty much remove access from James, to James from that specific application, right?
Yep.
Phishing protection. Yeah, go on, James, if you wanna.
I just wanted to add something there. When we do, I do a number of end user demonstrations for our MSP partners as well. And a simple question, I know it's kind of common sense, but a simple question that I always ask on those calls is, so how are you guys sharing credentials at the moment? Right? And the usual reaction that we get from that simple question is they start laughing, or they just know how they're sharing their credentials is the wrong way, right? And then from there, the follow-on questions is, okay, so what would happen if those shared credentials were to kind of be compromised, right? And it gets the business owners thinking about, how hypothetically, if something were to happen, how could that impact their business? So very simple questions just really opens up a can of worms around the password sharing, how they're managing their credentials. Awesome. Thanks, Anthony.
That's right. That's right. Thanks for sharing that, James. The other point here obviously is phishing protection. Like, reality is, if you don't know your credentials, you cannot type them because they're gonna be very difficult because you're using a password management, right? So in that case, reality is, if you receive a phishing email today, and excuse me, if you receive a phishing link, an email with a link, it's a phishing link. LastPass will automatically identify that that link is not legit, and it will not autofill. Okay, so obviously that doesn't mean that you can go to LastPass, copy paste there, but it should raise red flags, right? And again, this come back to education to the customers and to make it more difficult, put more hurdles there to actually get fish, right? Cross-platform synchronization. Again, LastPass can use across multiple platforms like Firefox, Safari, Chrome, mobile phones, pretty much name it. Reality is that is actually one of the benefit when customers say, well, I already store my passwords in Chrome. Well, reality is Chrome will not give you a password generator. Chrome would not let you share passwords with your peers or outside of your organization. And the other thing is, like, it would not give you access on your phone or like other, or let's say if you have a Mac on Safari or anything like that, you have to stick to Chrome as an example. Excuse me. Secure storage. Obviously, not only password, you can secure everything. Credit card, secure note. Technically, it's a vault. It's a full vault that you can store absolutely anything. And you can access it secure and everything is encrypted. So it's very safe. Okay. The next slide would be obviously what problem do we resolve for MSPs after we resolve problem for end users. Right. So James, if you want to go through this, that would be great.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. Thanks. So, centralized password management console. So, multi-tenant. Every MSP needs this, right? How are you going to manage multiple customers all at the same time? So, with the MSP console, for those that are joined the call that maybe haven't seen LastPass yet or used the product yet, um, we have a dashboard where you'll see customer A, B, and C, very similar to like a RMM tool that you're probably leveraging at the moment. Enhanced security, so you'll be able to protect your customers from the number one reason. We have 120 plus security policies that you can put in place. We actually released last year the ability to do a policy template, so you'll be able to set up a dummy company, and then every time you onboard a new company, you'll be able to just copy those policies that you've decided, these are the best in breed, and then apply it to all the new companies that you add on. Scalability, again, touching on the multi-tenancy and productivity piece, and then having the compliance and audit trails. So all the reporting that you're and the visibility that you have across each of your customers, you'll be able to pull that out of the LastPass specific dashboard. And then the last piece there is a green field. So why have we kind of added that? It's because password management is a relatively new tool that MSPs are now including into their stack, right? So where we see password management is, so I used to work at a company called Datto. It was purchased by Kaseya, and Anthony actually used to work at SolarWinds before joining the LastPass team. And both of us sold Office 365 backup like 5 years ago, right? And 5 years ago, when we sold Office 365 backup, I remember speaking to MSPs going, why do we need to back up our Office 365? Doesn't that do that automatically? But now, 5 years later, everyone knows that's not the case. And Office 365 backup is now a standard inclusion in pretty much every managed service agreement, right? And that's where we see password management is right now. Like it is something that's going to be a standard offering. And if MSPs aren't offering it, they will have some sort of offering very, very soon, right? A lot of our partners have already added it as a standard inclusion, and Anthony will touch on this later on, but how they added it as a opt in and not a opt out.
I would like to add a little
Sorry.
bit to that, James,
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Also, the reason why a lot of MSPs are actually doing that is because it's not us saying it. We already show Start New Zealand, also in Australia, is the number one reason why people get hacked today is compromised credentials, right? So this is why MSPs now are actually going back to their customers, to those customers that they have been talking about EDR, backup, everything, right? They haven't been able to sell because we have been singing the same song for 3 years or 4 years, right? And now you can go with something new that is an actual reason why people are getting breached, right? And you can tell them, hey, this is very important to us. MSPs are now pretty much positioning, let's say, password management. It's not LastPass. LastPass is just whatever tool you're using. Password management, right? After you're there with the hook with password management, then you go, look, you create that company again, then you start selling them everything else again, right? So perhaps I wouldn't lead it with LastPass. I would lead with password management. This is a real issue today out there and something that we need to talk about. Get your hooks in there again, and obviously at that point you open the door to sell everything else that you're selling today for security.
Yeah. Yeah. And to give you an example, one of our partners has, I think, over 1,000 password LastPass licenses, and that's their whole pitch. Like, let us provide you password management, right, in the first instance. And sometimes they're picking up these customers and only doing LastPass for them. And then in a few months' time, couple quarters' time, they reach out and then they start positioning their managed services, right, around that offering. Awesome. So how does LastPass differentiate from competitors, right? So obviously we have a local team in Australia, Anthony and myself, but then also we have the Bluechip team in New Zealand that are on the ground with you as well. So that local support that you can reach out to Parry and the team at any time, and they'll be able to answer all your questions. Parry and the LastPass team, we do talk a lot. So if anything does pop up, we'll be able to service you guys. Multiple data centers across the world. So we have center in Australia. If you have customers globally as well, and you want their data to stay, for example, in London, we have a data center in the UK, so they can store their data there as well. Again, the security policies. I think the other password management tools have potentially 50 security policies in place. And the common feedback that we get from partners that are joining LastPass is how granular we can get in the controls, right? If you need to, the user interface, that's probably the biggest feedback that we get, right, from us compared to what else is out there. Again, LastPass has the market share in password management. We've been around the longest, and it was a end user focused product, right? And now we're just giving MSPs the ability to include it into their offering, right? And that's why we have that 30 million plus users globally. Adoption dashboard. So you'll actually be able to see when you deploy LastPass how many licenses are actually using the product. You have that visibility as an MSP, right? And you'll be able to report that to your customers when you have those discussions with them. And a really cool thing that we've just released, I think 2 months ago, the compliance center at the bottom there. So it actually shows real-time monitoring of LastPass security and our infrastructure. So just to give you a quick snapshot of what that link actually looks like is, this is the compliance center. Again, on the right side of the screen, it's close to lifetime monitoring of our internal infrastructure, right? So we're actually showing our partners and also end users out there, like, hey, this is where your data is stored. If anything were to happen, we have a specific security team that will respond to anything that kind of looks abnormal from this, right? So you can jump on that link anytime. We also have the certifications there listed for you. And again, it's just showing our commitment to being transparent with our customers, right? And that's just been newly released. One thing to kind of mention on this is, since our split as of the 1st of January last year, our security team grew from 6 staff close to 50 staff now, fully focused on the security side of LastPass, right? And that's why these further enhancements are coming out with this compliance center and further things that we'll be going through with the roadmap as well. Awesome. So I'll pass this over to Anthony. But the question is here, the main reasons why end users are not adopting a password manager.
Yeah, thank you, James. So technically, with this, what we did is like we actually spoke with a lot of MSPs. I mean, we talked to thousands of MSPs. Obviously, you can see that we did our research, and this research wasn't only in Australia or New Zealand; it was actually globally, right? And we found like it's divided split like in two different areas. One is the value proposition, and second one is the onboarding implementation experience, right? So with the value proposition, like with end users, is a lack of awareness, right? A lot of end users, they still don't understand why they should use a password management when they can store their passwords in Chrome, right? That's the main thing. So reality is we just need to let them know, hey, Chrome is plain text storage, right? Versus in LastPass, everything is encrypted. So if a hacker actually get in there, the passwords in LastPass, there will be like a bunch of things encrypted versus literally they can just get a plain text information through Chrome. In fact, there is a video in YouTube on how hackers can do that, which is really strange that that's even advertised in YouTube. Obviously, obviously pricing concern, again, that relates back to value proposition. If they don't understand the value, then there's no way they're gonna pay for something they feel that they don't need, right? And the same thing with resistant to change. It's exactly the same thing. Why should I change? Why should I pay more? Everything goes back to the same. I think it's really let them know, like the security side of it, right? The fact that they need to create very complex password and premium password management like LastPass will actually help you to auto generate very secure password. The fact that you can share passwords, right? Um, and a lot of time, guys, I want to mention this. I love mention this experience because it's real. Like I went home, right, for a holiday back in Puerto Rico, and my family was so excited. Oh, you're working for LastPass, using the same password. It's very dangerous. And I was so excited. I was like, wow, this is awesome, guys. I'm so excited. And it just happened that I asked them, why do you think that? And the answer to that was like, I saw it in the news. So, which kind of like, it was like a light bulb moment for me, because it made me understand that end users really don't understand. They know reusing the same password is dangerous, but they really don't know why. They just heard it in the news. I had to explain to them that reality is a hacker can actually send you a phishing email, right? They can replicate, let's say the URL. As an example, I told them they live in Puerto Rico, so it's part of America. So I use them the example of Wells Fargo Bank. I said a hacker can easily change the L with a capital I and the URL look exactly the same, right? When you click on it and they open that URL, the landing page was cloned, so it looked exactly the same. What happened? You know your password, so what do? You type them, and you know what? That's it. You get hacked. And if you're using the same password in different applications, then they're gonna hack you in different applications as well, right? But the use of a password management, reality is it will identify that URL is not the same, and obviously it will not autofill. Boom, that is a red flag right there, right? And the other thing, let's say hypothetically, you go to LastPass, you copy paste your credential because it didn't raise the red flag, which it should, obviously, but you can still copy paste. Let's say they hack you in Wells Fargo, but reality is because you have different passwords in every single application, they cannot go with the same password and hack you in the Citibank account as well, right? So I mean, again, no product is bulletproof, but if we can put more hurdles out there for the hacker, that is gonna be very, very beneficial, right? So that was like, whoa, okay, I didn't know that, or I didn't think about that. Exactly. So a lot of time we actually have to talk the end user language for them to understand, right? So that's very important. Onboarding and implementation experience. A lot of the feedback that we get as well is like, well, this is another application that we need to learn, right? Reality is not like that. I have LastPass in my computer. I don't think about LastPass. I mean, I think about LastPass because I'm selling it every day or I'm talking about it every day, but not in my computer, right? Like right now, at least in my organization, we use federated logins. So as soon as I log into my computer or I log into my SSO, it log me into LastPass, and I don't think about LastPass all day. It's there. It just autofill. In fact, it actually improved my productivity. And again, that's something that we need to let the end user know because it is a concern. They may not tell you, right? But it's out there. So I would be just proactive and talk to them about it, right?
Yeah.
So is that onboarding experience, that user experience?
Yeah, awesome. And then just to add on how LastPass will help with onboarding and implementation, right? So we actually just released, or Mark Troyer is our sales engineering manager, and he's put together bite-sized videos, 3 to 4 minute videos around the actual rollout of LastPass that you as an MSP can use and even share with your end customers around how to use the product as well. So we've put that together. It's actually on YouTube as a playlist. It goes through step by step. So that will help with the onboarding and implementation. The actual rollout of LastPass for those that have joined that might not have used the product is very, very quick and very, very seamless, right? Like you can roll out LastPass within a few hours for the very first time for your first customer, right? Again, you have the resources of Parry from the Bluechip team as well as us here locally that will also help you with that and any questions that you have. We have a partner portal that you have access to, right? And you'll be able to log any support cases. You can actually call support as well on a phone number that we have that will give you that necessary hand holding if needed. Um, and Leo, our local sales engineer, he runs a session weekly, right, for our MSP partners. And you can join that every Thursday. I believe it would be 4 p.m. your time in New Zealand, but that's run every single week for the team to join. So any questions around the onboarding or implementation of the product, you have various ways to kind of get that support. Awesome.
Perfect.
Uh,
So,
Sorry, Anthony, just
um,
before you go on with the slide,
sure.
just going to pitch in here and just say if anyone has any questions they want to ask James or Anthony, just pop them in chat now. We're going to have a Q&A towards the end of the session. I know sometimes people try to remember the questions they have and forget towards the end. So just pop them in chat. I'll write them down and we'll ask at the end of the session. All right, take it away.
Good call, Parry. Thanks. On this slide, technically, this is just going back in time, right? Like with regard to drivers, like when we started the program 3 years ago, I remember speaking with a lot of MSPs, and technically the main motivation or slash drivers was like, yeah, a different to another tool that I have to actually increase revenue, right? New revenue stream, something that I can do, and they still doing it. As I mentioned before, a lot of MSPs use password management as a hook to actually go out there and generate more revenue, and it does work, right? Um, this was a mentality again three years ago. The situation is that as the time passed by and we continue to do researches and we continue to follow the critical control, notify data breach report globally, right? We continue to see that credential harvesting slash compromised credentials are still the number one reason why people get breached, and it just continue to grow, right? It hasn't changed. It is just pretty much it's going crazy. What that have um, pretty much may happen is like, Jamie, if you switch the slide, right? Technically, it changed the drivers. Now, what we see more out there is MSPs trying to improve their security offerings, right? And the revenue stream, it kind of like went to number two. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, as a business, you always want to generate revenue and you want to make sure that is a priority. But right now, what MSPs are doing, they're actually adding password management. And again, I'm leaving the name LastPass aside for a second. I'm talking about password management in general, right? They're actually adding it as a part of their security agreements, right? And it's something that Jane was mentioning before. 3 years ago, it was an add-on. Hey, I have a new tool. It's great. It will help you. It's an add-on. If you want it, you just pay extra and that's it. Versus now, you're paying me X amount of money a month. Password management, it is included. It is there, right? Why? Because it's the number one reason people get breached today. And as I have to mitigate the risk of you getting hacked, I have to mitigate the risk from you getting breached and then fire me as an MSP, right? So that's why we see MSPs right now actually adding password management as a part of their agreement. Don't get me wrong, they still give the option to opt out if they want, but it's an opt out option, it's not an add on option, right? So this is something that if you're not doing today, perhaps start thinking about it because it will happen. Like James mentioned before, it's kind of like backup. Backup is something that is kind of like included now, or like antivirus, it's included, right? It's not an add on, it's an opt out technically, right? So it's something to keep in mind. That doesn't mean that everybody's doing this. What I'm mentioning here is like the mentality 3 years ago. It was just new revenue stream mentality versus now you can see that change of like, it's kind of like, I want to improve my offerings, right? And my revenue still there. So I'm still going to use a password management to try to create more revenue for my company, for my organization. Okay. So thank James. I pass it over to you with the next slide.
Awesome. So the last section here, we'll be talking about the LastPass roadmap for 2024 and beyond, and then also specifically LastPass investments in MSP. So at the start of this year, we had a sales kickoff, right? And we actually had the opportunity to meet our new chief product officer, who is Don McLennan. And he actually came from a company called Barracuda. For those that aren't familiar with Barracuda, they're a 100% MSP focused vendor, right? And Don was there for 12 to 13 years, and he's joined the LastPass team as of this year to kind of spearhead the product for LastPass. And one of our core values going 2024 and beyond is unlocking the potential in the MSP side of things, right? So that's actually one of LastPass core values. And what that tells us is that we're going to be heavily investing into the MSP side of things, right? Because again, it just makes sense going through channel. Who holds the keys to the small to medium businesses? It's the MSPs, right? So what does that mean for our partners? It means further automation, a lot more reporting. How can we make it easier for our MSPs to do everything with password management and LastPass, right? And with that in mind, I'll just quickly go through a few key things with the roadmap. So 2024, our pillars of focus were security and privacy, deployment and adoption, and then that passwordless journey. And passwordless, everyone's kind of, we're hearing that a lot more, right? I see Parry nodding his head, popping up in every conversation. So with the security and privacy enhancements, I guess the key highlight here is the URL encryption. And I believe that is close to being completed as of Q2, which is now. Right, so all the URLs within our vault will be encrypted, and then just further enhancing the security side of things for our users. Deployment and adoption, how easy can we make it for end users and then as well as our MSPs to deploy the product? So we're improving super admin controls for our MSP partners. You have that super admin capabilities, and then further account recovery improvements as well. And as you can see, this is all Q2, and from my understanding, everything has been on time and in line. And I believe that we're getting a new roadmap for the remainder of the year very, very soon, right? And some might say, or I've gotten asked a few times, like there's a lot of improvements coming, right? And why are we doing so? It's because last year we focused on the security side of things of the product, and now we're looking at the enhancements, making sure that the value of the product is where it needs to be for our users. So that's why the team is heavily focused on the product side of things coming into 2024 and looking at ending it out. And then the last part is passwordless. So passkeys and the availability for passkeys, right? So LastPass is actually the first password manager to have FIDO2 certification on our infrastructure. So we have that there, and then we're looking at building the passkeys and where we can kind of integrate with what passkeys are available in the market there, right? Awesome. So that's pretty much it there, Parry. So thank you guys. You know, bad passwords happen to good people. So I hope everyone got some value out of this. But if there's any questions, let's we'll go through that for you guys now.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Anthony and James. I love that image as well. Man with the sign in New York. um, yeah, we'll just run through some questions now that have popped up. Firstly, just from my side as well, for anyone that doesn't know what is a passkey, because you did touch on it, but yeah, I know we've had this conversation internally, and a lot of the staff members didn't know what a passkey was. Do you just want to touch on that really quickly?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So a
Yeah.
passkey is, I guess, a physical. It's like a USB essentially, right? Where you can log it into your laptop, and rather than putting in your passwords, it has that biometrics on the key, and it actually gives you access to the device. Or in LastPass case, you log it in, use your biometrics, and it'll actually give you access to the LastPass vault with that integration. So an example is YubiKey.
Mm.
So that's what, the passkey is.
Okay. Is
That's the
there
UV
any
key as well. So sorry, I want to add to that. So also with regard to passkeys as well. So technically, you can also have passkeys in different applications that has it available.
Yeah.
And what it is,
Mm,
it's like the application actually save, let's say, like half of your key, and then
mm,
you save like the other half of your key, right?
right.
So technically, when you're going to the application, if that key doesn't match, it won't open. It won't give you access to it. So
Yeah.
technically, what we're trying to add with the integration with FIDO too is that right now we can save that other half of the key in LastPass. So if you actually open the application, as long as you have LastPass, it will pretty much go with the other key. It will match, and it's going to give you access to our application, right?
Yeah.
So it's something that if you have questions, like we can definitely, like anyone in specific have questions, please feel free to reach out. We're more than happy to book in with an engineer just to go a little bit more in depth on what it is and how it works.
Okay. Awesome. I've got a question here. Some clients that are storing their passwords in Chrome, how can you motivate them to start using LastPass?
Yep. So this question pops up all the time. So
Mm,
um, first thing I'd talk about is the risk of storing your passwords in the browser, right? So a lot of people think it's the same thing when it comes to password management, but it isn't.
mm,
It's not a password management tool. You can still use the same password for different sites, and it's more of a password storage, right? It doesn't stop you from using the same passwords. It doesn't stop you from using weak passwords. The business organization doesn't have visibility over the passwords that are stored in a Chrome browser. So I talk to about those risks, right? But how to motivate them. So the experience of storing your passwords in LastPass is going to be pretty similar to storing your passwords in the browser, right? Because we have that 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 extension that you can store your passwords in. So the user experience is going to be the same. So you can share that information with them. But then also a lot of MSPs have actually disabled browsers from storing passwords in their browser. That's not something a functionality done from the LastPass side. I believe it's on the actual browser or I think the RMM tools can actually block
mm.
browsers from
Yeah, I
having
think
their passwords stored there.
you can have the manage browsers and disable that setting. Um,
Yeah,
but for MSPs that are not doing that, I think that would be the number one step to try to motivate people. But in most cases, I know where end users have started, purchasing LastPass, they would have historic passwords saved on, like on the Chrome or Edge browser, and when they
yeah.
go to the website, they're just going to fill those on. They're not going to take the time to export that and import that into LastPass. So how can you kind of drive adoption around that as a MSP?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Parry, I can add to that if I want. So if you want, so technically a few things, right? The way I see it is motivation to the decision maker slash admin in the company, the owner, and the actual
Mm,
employees. I'll say it two different ways, right? And when I say motivation, I mean motivation and adoption, right?
mm,
The first thing is like with the admin, a if I can tell you as an admin, hey, right now, how do you have visibility of your password? Do you have visibility of your employees when they store their password in Chrome? Do you know if they're using weak password? Do you know if they're reusing password? Reality is you don't have that visibility, right? um I have even partners or end users, sorry, saying, well, we use SSO, we use single sign-on, we use MFA, um we already use Chrome to store password. Okay, let me ask you something. You as an admin, and again, I'm talking like I'm an MSP. You as an admin, Parry, can you tell me right now if your employees that are storing that password in Chrome, right? Do you know if they're using the same password they use to log into all your applications at work, to the same
mm.
password they're using to log into Facebook at home, right?
Yeah,
The answer to
I
that
don't know,
question,
but but I'm gonna guess and say yes.
correct, is you don't have
Yeah,
visibility, right?
yeah,
So as a business owner, that's your driver. You want to have
mm,
visibility of the password hygiene. Okay.
yeah.
Now, how do then you okay, let's say you sold the end user, like the how do you call it? The admin.
Decision maker.
And now it's like correct. Now it's like how to actually motivate the employees to use it. Again, is education. What I see a lot of partners do is like they run a half an hour, 15 minute to half an hour session on why
Mm,
password management, and then give them just like a little tutorial on how to use it and how easy to use. And then we also have like James mentioned, this 5 minute, 3 minute, 1 minute video on how to actually use password management or LastPass if they have more questions. LastPass is very easy to use. Okay, it's very intuitive. As long as they understand why they need to use it, they will just need to download it, and the rest is super easy. Literally with 15 minute, half an hour session to the company, they should be able to adopt and get motivated on using it. As long as the admin is sold on it, the employees
mm.
should be able to roll it out.
Yeah. Okay, that's
Okay.
good. I've got another question here. You mentioned you log into your machine at your organization through LastPass. Is that an option for a Windows user? Not
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
what.
So technically, we're compatible with Windows, Mac, Android, and iOS, right?
Hmm.
So technically, as long as you have in any device right now, we're compatible. So And as long as you set up like federated logins, right, you're gonna be able to do that. So I log into, let's say, my SSO or to my computer, and it will log me into LastPass. There's different rules to that as well. So if you want to block that from happening, then you just remove the federation, and then
Yeah.
everybody will have to use their master password to log into LastPass.
Okay, awesome. Um, Another question from the same person. What about passwords that are already stored in the browser, and you install LastPass after the passwords were stored? I think the question's more around importing and exporting. So
Yep. Yeah. So we have import export functionality with pretty much every browser out there. So you'll be able to like export those passwords that are stored into the browser and then import them into LastPass quite easily.
We actually have instructions on how to do it, right, Parry? And to be
Mm.
honest, as long as you can export the password in a Excel sheet, or you're gonna be able
Yep.
to import into LastPass. But we actually have instruction on how to export and import from, let's say, Chrome, from other password management like 1Password or Keeper or whatever. Like, that's actually instructions in LastPass on how to actually do that.
yeah, awesome. Thanks,
Yeah.
Anthony.
No worries.
And I think that's it. I've got a question here around zero trust, but I think they're asking about the zero knowledge security model. Do you just want to touch on that, how that works?
Yeah. Definitely. So we have the zero knowledge model. Technically, everything is encrypted, right? And at least with LastPass, we use like a very strong encryption algorithm, right? Such as
Mm,
AES 256-bit encryption to protect data, right? So your passwords are encrypted and decrypted in the device, pretty much locally at the device, meaning that even if LastPass were compromised, it will remain secure, right?
yeah,
Additionally, obviously, every password management in Last Pacific, I'm going to talk for myself, right? We obviously undergo to regular security audits, and make sure that we follow strict security standards. So it's definitely zero knowledge. That's why even if anything get compromised, your password will be secure.
Yeah.
yeah,
And that also means we don't have visibility over these passwords, right? Ourselves. No one at the business here has visibility over those passwords, not even your master password. We don't store that anywhere.
mm,
So yeah.
Yeah, which means
awesome.
that if you're setting up LastPass, make sure you set up the recovery method, because if
Yeah,
you don't set up the recovery method, we won't be able to retry your password. Yeah.
mm, awesome. Sorry, I've just got another question coming. Give me a second. Um, so same person asking the question. They're saying they're worried about the vulnerability that remains with the passwords that are stored in the browser after the passwords have been imported into LastPass. Um, I think,
The, the
yeah,
good
sorry,
the
go ahead.
good thing, yeah, I would say to that, the good thing is like a lot of people that store their password in Chrome, they're using weak password anyway, right?
Mm,
They're using a password that they actually created. When you go to LastPass, we actually have something that is called security score. So for example, I was doing the same. I'll give you my example. I was using Chrome to storing all my password when I started in the company, right? Obviously, when I changed to LastPass, start using LastPass, um, technically, as I was importing into LastPass business, my security score was just going low, low, lower, and lower and low, because I was using either the
mm,
same password or very, very weak password, like password 123, right?
yeah,
So because of that, my admin have visibility, not of my password, have visibility of my security score. And obviously,
mm,
I'm starting to receive emails after email. You need to change your emails. In the security score, there's actually a function that I can see password at risk as a user. I can literally press
mm,
there, and let's say I see 10 passwords at risk. From there, it literally says go and change password. When I click on it, it will take me to that specific application for me to change the password. And at
yeah,
that point, I create with a password generator, a very
mm,
secure password, and it's stored back into LastPass. That's it. So
yeah,
yes, definitely, when you export and import into LastPass, the security score will it just happen. It will be very low,
yeah.
and LastPass technically, I mean, it won't force you, but it will technically kind of like say,
It'll
hey, you need
it'll
to go
nag
there.
you. Yeah,
Correct.
Cool. Yeah.
The other thing, just to answer that question as well. So, I used browser as well. First couple of weeks when I was at Bluechip, before I implemented the LastPass thing, and after I did my import, just manually going into my browser and deleting all those stored passwords, disabling the autofill, disabling offer to save passwords and things. So, I can start to use LastPass to its full potential. So that's something that you'd have to do as well, if you're worried about that vulnerability still, about those passwords. Got a lot of questions coming in, but we do have only 8 minutes left on this webinar. So I think we'll just do this last one. Does the super admin have any visibility of user passwords or only the ability to reset? Easy one.
For James.
No, they don't have any visibility of the passwords, but if they enable a policy to do the reset for their end users, then they will be able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So technically, Parry, like the visibility is actually on the management side, right? When we talk about visibility, that means like you can tell if the end user is reusing passwords or if they're using weak passwords, right? Or for example, sharing center. Like if I have a sharing center and I share the password with James and I allow him to see, then obviously yes, right? Everybody will be able to see the password, but I still have control because I own that sharing center, right?
Yeah.
Versus everybody just have their own password and they share passwords through Excel sheets, then technically I have no idea who has what, right?
Yeah.
So, and then what James is saying with the policy is that, let's say I do have I'm the super admin, and let's say James leave and he have obviously a lot of password that you need to be, somebody else need to have them. Me as a super admin, I can reset his password, and then have full control of that. Now, obviously,
Yeah.
if James still there and I resell his password, he's gonna be wondering, wait, what is going on, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, super admin could have some type of control, but not that. Oh, I can see all the password like in plain text.
Mm.
I hope that answered that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just another thing on the admin and sharing center, and just in general managing LastPass. Do you just want to quickly touch on how MSPs can reduce the time they're spending to manage, password management for the end users? Because I'm sure a lot of MSPs wouldn't want to spend too much time each month, just managing end users' environments.
Yeah, so it really is designed to be kind of a set and forget type scenario, right? So a lot of
Mm,
MSPs set up these shared folders, maybe for finance or marketing, that use the same sort of passwords, right? And make sure that they have the correct admins for each shared group. And then outside of that, unless the end user kind of needs them to do something specific, you don't really need to jump in there too often.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you can set an admin for in-house admin as well for the end user, where they can do basic
Correct.
things. Yeah,
Correct. So yeah, correct. So the MSP doesn't have to have all the power to everything. Obviously, you want to
mm,
train up the end user, at least one champion at the business, to kind of understand the product a little bit better, maybe than others, and they can kind of run the show there.
yeah,
Yeah, if
awesome.
if if I if, if I can add something, Parry, on the share folder as well, right? And a benefit and a differentiator from us is that
Mm,
share folder actually allow you also to share something with someone outside of the organization, right? So
wow.
if you have a
Okay.
customer, right, that
Mm,
need any type of password for whatever reason, right, as long as the end user have LastPass, it could be even the free version, right? It
mm,
will allow you to share something securely with an end user, right? And
yeah,
if you're worried about your employees about sharing something with end user out there, we actually have event logs in LastPass, right?
yeah,
So if somebody actually do something, I don't want to say dodgy, but dodgy, right,
mm,
and share a password, you know what? That would be
yeah,
locked, and technically the employee will be in trouble because you as an admin have the visibility, right,
yeah,
of where that password is going. So
yeah. And if you are sharing something, let's say with a customer, they're on a free version, do you still have the option to hide that password from
yeah,
viewing?
yes, definitely. And it's not only
Mm,
passwords, right? We continue to talk about password, but reality is with LastPass, you can share everything. You can share like secure notes. You can share credit card information. You can share, I mean, whatever is in the vault that you can actually share. If you need to, For example, a good example is, let's say, the internet Wi-Fi,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Let's say you want to share the internet Wi-Fi with somebody that goes to your office. They have, instead of just having a sign outside, hey, here's the password, right? You can actually share that password through a
Yeah.
LastPass, even if they only have free version.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. I think we'll start to wrap it up here before we get cut off on the meeting. So yeah, thank you everyone for the questions. Feel free to reach out to me if you still have any questions that weren't answered today. My email address is parry@bluechipit.co.nz. And thanks to everyone that attended. Someone from our marketing team will be sending out the vouchers for Uber Eats, which was one of the incentives to attend. So yeah, I think Maggie from Bluechip, she'll be in touch to send those vouchers out. And yeah, thank you again to James and Anthony for taking the time out to do this presentation for our customers, and hope everyone got some value out of that.
Thank you
Awesome.
for
Awesome.
inviting
Cheers,
Thank you,
me.
Parry.
guys.